Well, we still have Ms. Bloom here with us, who's a former advisor at the office of Prime Minister Netanyahu. Ms. Bloom, thank you for staying here with us. The latest coming in is that Israel is also now striking back at Iran after Iran launched True Promise Operation 3. Your assessment of the situation, and are we perhaps inching towards an all-out war, or do you think there's perhaps some room for negotiation?
No, well, I don't think the alternatives are negotiations or all-out war. I think a third possibility is that Iran capitulates, says to President Trump, okay, we're ready to, let's say, cede some of our demands. Now, that doesn't mean they would keep their vows. Iran lies. And here's the thing. You cannot equate a liberal democracy with a radical Islamist terrorist regime. So even though we call it escalation of tensions, etc., that sort of suggests some kind of equality between the two countries, and it doesn't exist. And most people in the world, peace-loving people in the world, want to see the Iranian regime toppled and not to have deadly weapons in the hands of the Ayatollahs.
Ms. Bloom, you do speak of the conversation between Bibi and Trump, and the White House earlier, just half an hour back, confirmed that the Israeli Prime Minister spoke with Trump. But we do know that earlier the US President had warned Israel against attacking Iran, which brings me back to the same question, that with now what we are witnessing with strikes and counter-strikes being launched between Israel and Iran, can perhaps Israel withstand this war on its own, or will it need the help of its allies? Because we do know that Iran's nuclear sites are buried deep underground, and to strike that, Israel perhaps does not have the wherewithal and may need US assistance.
Okay, well, the phone call you referred to, when President Trump said to Netanyahu, do not strike, do not launch a strike, I'm in the middle of negotiating. He even acknowledged that he said that to Netanyahu. And what happened then was that Netanyahu said, okay, I'm giving you time to broker a deal, but in the meantime, or to reach a deal. In the meantime, though, we have to prepare in the event that Iran does not sign a deal or doesn't agree to stop enriching uranium, etc. And because the International Atomic Energy Agency said that Iran already has enough enriched uranium to build 9 or 10 nuclear bombs, time was running out for Israel. And I think that Netanyahu made that clear to President Trump. And then what happened is, I believe that Trump's envoy, Steve Witkoff, must have said to Trump, look, whatever we're doing, they're not agreeing to it, and their language is more and more belligerent. And at that point, I believe that this next conversation between Trump and Netanyahu was one in which Netanyahu said, look, I can't wait any longer. This is an existential threat to my country. And I think Trump said, okay, well, we are not going to help you attack, but we're going to let you do what you need to do. Now, the latest phone call, interestingly, post on Truth Social that President Trump wrote. First, it was, listen, you guys, you're all dead. All your leaders are dead. Maybe now the hardliners are dead, he said. Your hardliners are all dead. Maybe now there's room for you to come and negotiate. And then his next tweet was, it's not a tweet on Truth Social, his next post the following day was, okay, if we're still willing to talk to you. But he was saying it from a position of strength, not equality, not you and we are on the same plane, the United States and the regime in Iran. No, it was saying we're the boss and you either do this the hard way or the easy way. It's up to you.
Right, Ms. Bloom, you do speak of Trump's message on Truth Social, where he offered a second chance to Iran to strike a nuclear deal, clearly issuing a warning. But U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio earlier had clearly said that U.S. did not participate in the Israeli strikes on Iran. At this point of time, U.S. official has confirmed that U.S. is assisting Israel in intercepting strikes from Iran. But if these strikes and counter-strikes continue? And if the situation gets out of hand, then how do you assess the United States of America's position?
Well, I think it will depend what happens. It'll depend on how many casualties there are. It will depend on whether Americans are hurt. You know that the State Department issued warnings around the Middle East to evacuate all non-essential personnel, U.S. personnel. This was before the strike, and so everybody believed that something was cooking, and that's why that message went out to say, okay, get your families out of there, non-essential personnel, get out of the Middle East. And I think it will depend very much on the outcome of the next couple of days, what the United States does in response, because President Trump has made it extremely clear, as has Netanyahu all these years, that Iran cannot go nuclear. But why? Why is that so crucial? Because the regime in Iran is evil and wants to take over the Middle East and the world. And this is unacceptable. You have it in the hands of a dangerous terrorist regime.
Ms. Bloom, you say that Iran cannot go nuclear, but Israel has also not officially clarified its nuclear status. Why is that?
Well, you're right. This is something that Israel has always kept under wraps. There's an assumption that Israel has nuclear weapons. But you see, Israel is a liberal democracy. Israel doesn't use whatever weapons Israel has. Israel uses its weapons defensively, and therefore there's no comparison, and that's the reason that Iran is because of its regime. And I'll tell you something. I believe the Iranian people who have been they're under this terrorizing regime, and they've had it, but they need backing. President Obama in 2009, when Iranians took to the streets, he did not help them. He didn't even give them moral support. What I mean help them is not that he had to help them topple the regime, but give them some moral support. And he did the opposite. And I think what they're seeing now, and by the way, Prime Minister Netanyahu, a couple of hours ago, released a message to the Iranian people. He said, we're your friends, and we have no beef with you. And we hope that this will, we're going to give you the opportunity. We hope that this will help you release yourselves from this tyrannical regime.
Right, Ms. Bloom, my last question to you. How unprecedented is the Iranian strike in terms of invading the Iron Dome?
Well, I'm not sure, because that is military information. I don't know how much. It wasn't only the Iron Dome. There are other. There's also there are other missile defenses. The THAAD missile defense that a United States made interceptor, and there's also David Sling, and there are others involved in this. Now, I don't believe that Iran was that successful in breaking through that barrier. It's just that when it launched so many missiles at the same time, it puts the interceptors, it gets them busy over time, and you can't catch every one every minute. But also you have to understand that even when they are intercepted, the shrapnel that falls from the interception is so huge, and heavy and deadly. It's sometimes, if you see pictures of those on the ground, the shrapnel that lands is sometimes, it looks like the size of a missile itself. Very, very heavy, very, very dangerous. And that is why Israelis are told always to stay in way longer in the bomb shelters after there is a missile intercepted, because shrapnel can kill you as well.
Right, Ms. Bloom, at this point of time, we did talk about the United States of America's position with both Iran and Israel striking back at each other. Is there a room for negotiation, and is there a room for U.S. now to get perhaps both the sides on the table? And if that happens, will Israel heed?
First of all, I think that when you use the word negotiation is problematic. What I think is that when you defeat your enemy to the point that he says, okay, I give up. I give up. You win. In other words, your terms are acceptable now because I've lost. I have no more leverage. And that I do think there's a chance for.
Right, Ms. Bloom, thank you so much for joining us here on WION and sharing insights with us.
Thank you for having me again.